The war between the Union worlds and the human fleet had lasted for 7 long years. Entire systems burned, planets fell silent, and ships vanished into empty space. To the alien races of the Union, humans were monsters of the void, brutal and unyielding. Their reputation was carved into every battlefield. When the Battle of Kivar Prime ended, smoke and static filled the black. One alien frigate drifted without power, its hull split and engines cold. Inside that broken ship, a single survivor struggled to breathe. Her name was Rilara, a young officer of the Keth Dominion, her silver-blue skin bruised and her uniform torn. The Keth had fought humans for decades, calling them savages who only knew destruction. Rilara expected the same fate for herself. The human rescue ship Horizon arrived to collect survivors. Its commander, Captain Marek, was a man who had seen too much death. His ship had lost half its crew in the battle, but he refused to leave anyone behind, even enemies. When scanners detected a faint life sign inside the Keth frigate, he gave a single order: bring her in. The Marines wore black armor and heavy helmets. They cut through the alien hull, entered the broken ship, and found Rilara lying near a console. She was weak and afraid. Her heart raced when she saw the tall human soldiers step through the smoke. She knew stories of humans killing Keth prisoners on sight. She whispered a final prayer to the stars, but no death came. The Marines lifted her gently and carried her back to the Horizon. She lost consciousness as the cold air of the ship touched her skin. When she woke, Rilara found herself in a bright white room. The bed was soft, the air warm, and the sound of distant engines filled the silence. For a moment, she thought she was in the afterlife. Then she saw a man sitting beside her, reading from a datapad. He looked human, strong, calm, with eyes that carried both tiredness and resolve. "You're awake," he said. His voice was deep but not harsh. She stared at him, confused. "You're human." "Yes," he replied. "Captain Marek of the Horizon. You're on my ship now." She sat up quickly, her heart pounding. "Why am I alive?" "Because you were still breathing when we found you," he said. "And because that's what we do. We save lives." Rilara could not understand his words. For years, her people had painted humans as merciless killers. To be saved by one felt like mockery. "You expect me to believe this? You destroyed our fleet. You killed thousands." His eyes darkened, but his voice stayed steady. "War kills everyone, Rilara. We lose people too. But we don't kill prisoners." The room fell silent. Later, a nurse entered with a tray of warm food: bread, soup, and fruit. Rilara stared at it suspiciously, expecting poison. Marek noticed her hesitation. "It's safe," he said. "Our food synthesizers can adjust for Keth biology. We checked your data files." Rilara's hand trembled as she lifted the spoon. The taste was strange but not unpleasant. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The warmth spread through her chest and tears gathered in her eyes. She turned away quickly, ashamed to show weakness in front of her enemy. Marek stood up to leave. "Rest, you're safe here." As he reached the door, she asked quietly, "Why do you care if I live?" He looked back at her. "Because someone has to." Days passed aboard the Horizon. Rilara remained under watch but was treated with respect. The humans didn't torture her or lock her in a dark cell. They gave her books, access to simple communication screens, and time to recover. She spent hours staring at the stars through the window, wondering why her enemy would show her kindness. The ship's engineer, Thomas, often visited to check her health readings. He was a quiet man who spoke with gentle humor. "You Keth breathe faster than we do," he said once, smiling. "Means you're alive." "That's a good thing." Rilara studied his face. Humans had strange eyes, deep and full of emotion. She had been taught that humans hid behind their cruelty, but here she saw none of it. These people were not the monsters her commanders had described. Still, she couldn't let herself trust them completely. Not yet. One night the ship shook violently. The alarms blared through the corridors. Rilara jumped out of bed as red lights filled the room. The door slid open and she saw crew members running past. A young officer stopped by her door. "Stay inside, alien," he said quickly. "We're under attack." Before she could respond, he was gone. Rilara's pulse raced. She could feel the vibrations of weapons firing, the thud of missile impacts, the crackle of energy shields. She wanted to hide, but a stronger voice in her mind told her to move. She rushed to the small console at her bedside. The screen flickered with the ship's status feed. Power fluctuations, damaged thrusters, enemy signatures nearby. Her technical training as a Keth officer kicked in. She realized that the Horizon's reactor shields were failing. If they collapsed, the human ship would explode. Rilara hesitated. These were her enemies. Saving them meant betraying her people, but she remembered Marek's calm eyes, his words, and the warmth of the food they had given her. For the first time, she questioned what side truly deserved her loyalty. She took a deep breath, opened the maintenance panel in her room, and began rerouting the power flow manually. Her fingers moved quickly, following patterns she knew from years of training. Sparks burst from the cables as she stabilized the current. The red lights began to fade, replaced by steady blue. Moments later, the ship's systems normalized. The sounds of battle quieted. When Marek entered her room, his face was covered with soot, his uniform torn. "What did you do?" "I rerouted your reactor power," Rilara said, panting. "You would have lost containment in 2 minutes." He stared at her in disbelief. "You saved us." "I didn't plan to," she replied softly. "I just didn't want anyone to die like that." Marek nodded slowly. "You did the right thing." He turned to leave but stopped again. "Rilara, thank you." Those words hit her harder than any weapon. In her world, gratitude was weakness. Yet from this human, it felt powerful, real. After the attack, the crew began to treat her differently. Some still avoided her, whispering that she was a spy, but others greeted her with respect. Thomas brought her a small tool from the engineering deck. "For your quick hands," he said. "You might need it again." She smiled for the first time since the war began. In the days that followed, Rilara spent more time with the crew. She helped with ship diagnostics, explained alien signals they encountered, and shared what she knew of the Union's tactics. Marek never forced her to speak. He only asked when she was ready. Every time she looked at him, she saw something that frightened her more than war. She saw humanity. Not in the sense of species, but in the way he refused to give up compassion even to his enemies. Rilara realized something then. The humans had not won the war because of superior weapons. They had won because of their spirit. That night, as she looked through the window at the endless sea of stars, she whispered quietly to herself, "Maybe we were wrong about them." Rilara awoke to the soft hum of the Horizon's engines. The pale light of distant stars filtered through the observation windows, painting the room in a quiet silver glow. Her body still ached from the battle, but her mind was sharper than ever. Yesterday she had saved the ship, not with weapons or fire, but with knowledge and skill. And in doing so, she had glimpsed something she had never seen before, the human capacity for mercy and gratitude. The room's door slid open, and Thomas entered with a small tray of tools and data pads. "Morning, Rilara," he said, smiling. "Sleep well?" She nodded, trying to hide the lingering tension in her shoulders. "I managed some rest. The engines feel steady?" "Yes," Thomas replied. "Thanks to you. You handled that like a veteran." Rilara's eyes fell to the tray. "I just did what anyone would do." Thomas shook his head. "Not anyone would risk their life for those who fought against them. That takes something more than training." She paused, unsure how to respond. Words of praise felt foreign, like a language she had never learned. Yet for the first time she allowed herself a quiet pride. Later that day, Rilara followed Marek to the bridge. She had never seen a human ship up close, and the Horizon was a marvel of design. Smooth panels glowed with soft light, and holographic screens floated in the air displaying star maps, sensor readings, and crew movements. Humans moved through the bridge with calm efficiency, speaking in short commands and acknowledgments. Marek gestured toward the navigation console. "I want you to help me understand the Union's remaining systems. You know their signals and patterns better than we do." Rilara hesitated. Teaching humans about her own people felt like betrayal, but she remembered the lives they had spared. If she helped them understand, perhaps she could prevent more bloodshed. She leaned over the console, fingers brushing the controls. "The Union uses overlapping communication grids," she explained. "If you intercept these signals, you can predict their patrol routes and avoid ambushes. Some systems are automated. They follow a pattern that can be exploited." Marek watched her carefully, absorbing every word. "And you trust me to do this?" Rilara's lips tightened. "I trust you to keep your word. You saved me. That is more than most humans would do." He gave a small nod. "Then we will do it together." Days passed, and Rilara's integration into the crew continued. She spent her hours learning human ways, how they repaired ships, how they rationed supplies, and how they supported each other. She observed that humans laughed even in the face of danger, that they celebrated small victories and mourned losses with honesty. One evening, Thomas approached her again. "Rilara, want to see something?" he asked, holding a small glass sphere. She tilted her head. "What is it?" "It's a hollow projection of Kivar Prime," Thomas said. He activated the device. A 3D image of the planet appeared, showing the battle scars, the destroyed cities, and the cratered surface. Rilara's chest tightened. Memories of the fight flooded back. The screams of her crew, the fire that devoured their ships, the helplessness she had felt. She turned away, ashamed of her trembling hands. Thomas placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You didn't cause this. You survived. You helped us today, and that matters more than what happened yesterday." She swallowed hard. "It feels wrong to be alive when so many are gone." "Then use that life," Thomas said simply. "Help others survive. That is what humans do, and what makes us strong." Rilara stared at him, and for the first time she understood. The human strength did not lie in their weapons, but in their ability to act with purpose even in chaos. They preserved life when they could. That was why they had survived the Union's attacks for so long. A few days later, the Horizon received a transmission. A small Union ship had activated an emergency beacon near the asteroid belt of Kresha. Marek gathered his officers on the bridge. "We have survivors," Marek said. "We can't ignore this." "They need help." Rilara's heart pounded. She recognized the signals. These were Keth vessels. Her own people. Many of them had fought her at Kivar Prime. She froze. "Rilara?" Marek asked, noticing her hesitation. "They are Keth," she said softly. "If we approach, they will see us as enemies." Marek nodded. "That is true. But if we leave them, they will die. You can help me prevent another tragedy." Rilara took a deep breath. "I will help." As the Horizon approached the asteroid belt, Rilara studied the Union ship's signals. She guided Marek to a safe path through the floating rocks, avoiding detection. When they arrived, she held her breath. The Keith crew had barely survived the attack. Their ship was broken, drifting near a jagged asteroid. Marek ordered rescue teams to board carefully. Rilara watched as the human Marines moved with precision, stabilizing the hull, securing life support, and carrying injured Keth soldiers aboard. She expected fear, resistance, maybe even attacks, but the Keth crew, weak and exhausted, simply stared in disbelief. One of them, a young lieutenant, looked at Rilara with wide eyes. You are Keth," he said. "Yes," Rilara replied. "And humans saved us." The lieutenant shook his head. "Impossible. They killed everything in the last battle." "They spared you," Rilara said, "and they are giving you a chance to live." For the first time, the Keth soldiers saw the humans not as monsters, but as beings capable of compassion. Confusion mixed with hope, and for a moment Rilara saw the same amazement she had felt when she first woke aboard the Horizon. After the rescue, Marek held a briefing. "We won't turn anyone away," he said firmly. "Even if they are our enemies, life is life. Help them recover and we can rebuild." Rilara felt a strange pride. These humans were teaching her what it meant to fight with honor, not just with weapons. She realized that her world had been blind. The Union had focused on control and destruction, while humans focused on survival and unity. She spent the following days helping the Keth survivors. She translated medical data, explained how to stabilize ships, and encouraged them to cooperate with the Horizon crew. Slowly, she began to see a change in the survivors. Fear turned into trust, and hostility gave way to cautious gratitude. One evening, as the survivors rested, Marek found Rilara in the observation room. The stars were calm, reflecting in the glass like scattered diamonds. "You are different now," he said. "How?" she asked. "You see humans in a new way," he said, "and you are helping your own people because of that. That is something few would do, Keth or human." Rilara looked down. "I am beginning to understand. Life is not about winning or losing. It is about protecting what is worth saving." Marek nodded. "Exactly. That is why we endure. That is why we fight differently." Rilara felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of purpose she had never known. She realized that her view of humanity was changing, not because she had been convinced by words, but because she had seen their actions. Humans could destroy, yes, but they could also save. And sometimes saving was the greatest strength of all. The Horizon continued its journey through the stars. Rilara moved among the crew, learning, observing, and teaching. She discovered humor in small moments, courage in quiet actions, and hope in survival. The Keth survivors began to trust her, and slowly, they began to see humans not as monsters, but as beings worthy of respect. One night, she watched the stars with a young Keth soldier, Lyran, who had been terrified of humans when they first arrived. "They are different from what we were taught," he said softly. "They don't strike without reason. They value life." Rilara nodded. "I have learned that, and it is why I will do what I can to help them, and to help my people see the truth." For the first time since the war began, Rilara felt hope. Not blind hope, but a steady, growing belief that understanding and compassion could change the course of the future. The Horizon glided through space, carrying its strange mix of humans and aliens. And among them, Rilara began to find a place, not as a prisoner or a survivor, but as a bridge between worlds, and in that moment, she realized something she had never imagined. The greatest weapon in the universe was not firepower, it was mercy. Rilara had grown accustomed to life aboard the Horizon, but the quiet calm of space was never permanent. The human crew had a rhythm, a steady flow of work and vigilance, and Rilara had found a place within it. She repaired minor systems, translated Union communications, and guided engineers through unfamiliar Keth technology. Yet even as she contributed, she felt the weight of her past. She had once fought against these humans, and now she worked alongside them. That conflict gnawed at her in the dark hours. One morning, the Horizon sensors detected an unusual energy signature near the outer rim of the Orvath cluster. Marek convened the bridge crew. "Scans indicate a Union patrol," he said. "They are heavily armed, but we may have a chance to avoid engagement if we act quickly." Rilara's eyes widened. "Avoid engagement?" she asked. "They are Keth ships. If they identify us, they will fire immediately." "Exactly," Marek replied. "That is why we need your expertise. We need to navigate through the cluster without triggering detection." Rilara took a deep breath. This was more than a test of skill, and it was a test of trust. Could she guide humans through Union-controlled space without hesitation? Could she help her enemies without regret? She moved to the navigation console. "The cluster has natural asteroid fields that block most sensor scans," she explained. "We can use them as cover, but timing is critical. One wrong move and they'll detect us instantly." Marek nodded. "You'll be in charge of the path." "I trust your judgment." Rilara's fingers danced across the controls. She analyzed the patrol's route, the speed of their vessels, and the density of asteroids in the cluster. Sweat formed on her brow, but her hands did not falter. Every calculation mattered. The lives of humans and rescued Keth alike depended on her. Hours passed as the Horizon weaved through the asteroid field, Rilara guiding it with precision. The ship creaked under stress, shields humming as they adjusted to the gravitational pull of massive rocks. The crew held their breath, watching her work. Even Marek, usually calm under pressure, remained unusually silent. Finally, the Horizon slipped past the Union patrol undetected. The alarm stopped, and the hum of the engines returned to its steady rhythm. Relief washed over the crew. Marek turned to Rilara. "You did it," he said. "You saved us again." Rilara shook her head.
"I only did what had to be done."
"No one should die if it can be avoided," Marek smiled faintly. "That is why we survive. Humans fight, yes, but we fight differently. We value life." Rilara stared at him. The words echoed in her mind. In all her years as a Keth officer, she had never heard such an explanation for victory. Power, firepower, and conquest were always the focus. Now she understood that humanity's strength lay not in weapons, but in their will to preserve life, even the life of those who had opposed them. The crew celebrated quietly after the dangerous maneuver. Humans and rescued Keth shared meals and stories in the mess hall. Rilara observed the interactions, noticing small acts of kindness. A Marine helping a Keth soldier with a prosthetic limb, a human engineer offering extra rations, a rescued Keth sharing a rare fruit with a young human child. Rilara found herself smiling. These humans were not perfect. They argued, disagreed, and sometimes acted hastily. But when it mattered most, they acted with honor. That evening, Marek approached Rilara in the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, a tapestry of light and darkness. "You have changed," he said quietly. You see things differently now? Rilara hesitated. I see that humans are not monsters. That is all. Marek shook his head. It is more than that. You help your people see this too. You are bridging worlds, Rilara. That is not a small thing. She looked down, feeling a warmth she could not name. I never imagined it would be like this, she admitted. I expected anger and hatred, but I found understanding. Marek smiled faintly. That is the human way. We survive through understanding, not just strength. The Horizon continued its journey. Weeks passed without major incident, and Rilara's role became more integral. One day, the ship received an urgent distress signal from the planet Volthera. The planet's Union garrison had been overwhelmed by rebel forces. Civilians were trapped in their cities, unable to evacuate. Marek held a council with his officers. We cannot ignore this, he said firmly. We have the ability to help them. It will be dangerous, but it is the right thing to do. Rilara felt her chest tighten. Volthera was deep within Union space. Rescue would be risky. The humans may see us as targets, she warned. The Keth may see you as invaders. Marek's eyes were steady. We act with purpose, not malice. That is enough, Rilara nodded. For the first time, she realized that she had begun to trust the humans completely, not because she had to, but because their actions had earned it. The Horizon approached Volthera under cloak, maneuvering carefully through Union defenses. Rilara guided the ship through hidden valleys in the planet's magnetic fields, using her knowledge of Keth sensors and signals. The civilians had no way to defend themselves. The crew worked tirelessly to evacuate them, transporting families from dangerous zones to the Horizon's medical bays. Rilara moved among the rescued, offering words of comfort. The humans treated her as a partner, never questioning her authority or intentions. Slowly, she began to see herself not as a prisoner or outsider, but as part of a team working for a greater purpose. During the evacuation, an unexpected attack struck the Horizon. Rebel fighters approached the ship in fast vessels, firing energy projectiles. Marek ordered evasive maneuvers, but the attack was relentless. Rilara stayed at the navigation console, guiding the Horizon through debris fields and energy storms. She calculated every trajectory, every shield adjustment, and every countermeasure. Hours of tense maneuvering followed, until the rebel ships finally withdrew, unable to penetrate the Horizon's defenses. When the battle ended, Marek placed a hand on her shoulder. You kept everyone alive, he said simply. Rilara shook her head. We all did it together, humans and Keth. That is what matters. After the Volthera mission, Rilara noticed a subtle change among the rescued Keth. They looked at humans differently now. The stories of human cruelty had not vanished entirely, but a new understanding had begun to form. They had witnessed humans acting not out of conquest but out of compassion. One young Keith soldier, Miro, approached Rilara quietly. I never believed humans could do such things, he said. They saved us even when we were enemies, Rilara nodded. Yes, and that is why they survive. Strength is not only in weapons, but in mercy. Miro's eyes reflected hope. Do you think our people can change? Rilara thought for a long moment. I believe they can. It will take time, but seeing truth is the first step. During the following weeks, the Horizon traveled to various systems, aiding both human and alien communities in need. Rilara's knowledge of the Union proved invaluable, and her presence helped foster cooperation between humans and Keth survivors. Slowly, trust grew, and old prejudices began to fade. Through it all, Rilara began to understand herself in a new way. She was no longer only a Keth officer, trained for war and obedience. She was a mediator, a teacher, and a witness to humanity at its best. One night, she stood alone on the observation deck, watching a binary star system spin silently in the void. Marek joined her, his expression thoughtful. You are remarkable, he said quietly. You have survived, adapted, and helped others survive. That is no small feat, Rilara smiled faintly. I never imagined my life would take this path. I thought humans were my enemies. Now I see they are something else entirely. Marek nodded. They are flawed, yes, but they endure. They create, protect, and choose mercy when they can. That is why they survive, and why you helped us all survive too. Rilara felt a profound sense of purpose. She had expected death, fear, and hatred when she first encountered humans. Instead, she had found life, courage, and compassion. The realization settled in her mind. Humans were not monsters, nor were they perfect. They were something far greater, a species that could inspire hope even in the hearts of those they had once considered enemies. As the horizon sailed onward through the endless stars, Rilara knew her journey was far from over. The universe remained vast, full of danger and uncertainty, yet she carried a new understanding. Life, mercy, and courage were the greatest forces in the cosmos. And she, once a prisoner, had become a part of that force. The horizon glided silently through a quiet sector of space. For weeks, the crew had faced little resistance, giving Rilara a chance to adjust to life aboard the human ship. She no longer felt like a prisoner or even a guest. She was part of the team. Her knowledge of Keth systems, Union tactics, and alien communication had made her invaluable, and she had begun to understand the humans not only as allies, but as a species capable of astonishing resilience and courage. Yet, even as she grew accustomed to this new life, shadows of the past lingered, memories of the battles she had fought, the comrades she had lost, and the destruction she had witnessed haunted her. She could not forget the faces of those who had died because of war, Keth and human alike. One evening, Marek found her in the observation room, staring at a distant nebula. Its glowing clouds stretched across the void, swirling in colors she had never seen on Keth worlds. "You are quiet tonight," Marek said softly, joining her. Rilara did not turn to him. "I am thinking," she replied, "about those we lost, about what comes next." Marek nodded. "It is hard to leave the past behind, but we can honor it by the choices we make now." She exhaled slowly. "I never imagined humans could act with such care. They saved me, even though I was their enemy, but not everyone in the universe will act that way." "True," Marek said. "There are always threats. But mercy is not weakness. It is strength. And it is what gives us hope." The next day, the Horizon received a high-priority transmission. A small human colony on the planet Arvion had been attacked by a Union raiding force. Civilians were trapped and communications were cut off. Marek convened the bridge crew immediately. "We need to respond," he said. "The colony is vulnerable and time is critical." Rilara studied the data feed. "The Union ships are faster and more numerous. Any direct engagement will be risky." Marek's eyes met hers. "Then we must act smart. You know their tactics. Guide us." Rilara's heart raced. This mission would test everything she had learned about humans, and everything the humans had learned from her. She could not fail. The Horizon approached Arvion cautiously, cloaking its approach behind asteroid fields and magnetic anomalies. Rilara analyzed the Union patrol patterns, calculating the safest path for the ship to reach the colony without alerting the enemy. Her fingers moved over the navigation console with practiced precision, adjusting shields, thrusters, and sensor arrays. As the Horizon neared the planet, they detected the raiding fleet. Union ships hovered over the colony, firing at defenseless buildings. Civilians ran in panic with no ships or shelters to protect them. Rilara's chest tightened at the sight. She had seen similar destruction on Keth worlds, and she knew the cost of hesitation. "Prepare for rescue operations," Marek commanded. "We'll deploy ground teams and provide cover from orbit." Rilara guided the Horizon into position, calculating optimal angles for shuttle deployment. The ship's marines and engineers moved with disciplined efficiency, landing on the planet's surface to evacuate civilians and secure the area. Rilara remained on the bridge, coordinating movement and scanning for threats. She spotted a group of Union ships attempting to flank the colony. "They are moving to intercept the shuttles," she warned Marek. Marek's hands tightened on the console. "Divert power to shields and prepare countermeasures. We cannot let them harm the civilians." Rilara adjusted the ship's system, stabilizing shields against enemy fire. She guided the Horizon through evasive maneuvers, dodging energy blasts while keeping the orbit steady for shuttle support. Sparks and alarms filled the bridge as the enemy fired relentlessly, but the human skill and Rilara's guidance kept the ship safe. After intense minutes, the Union ships were forced to retreat. The Horizon's Marines had successfully evacuated the last group of civilians. Relief swept over the bridge as the planet's surface fell quiet. Marek turned to Rilara, eyes filled with respect. "You did it again. You kept everyone alive." Rilara shook her head. "We all did it together. Humans and Keth. That is what matters." After the mission, Rilara spent time with the evacuated civilians. Many were frightened, some injured, but all were alive. She assisted in distributing medical supplies and providing comfort. She listened to their stories, the fear and despair in their voices, and felt a connection she had never experienced among soldiers. One young human girl approached her, clutching a small stuffed animal. "Thank you," the girl whispered. "You saved us." Rilara knelt, her heart heavy with emotion. "I only helped." "You are brave for staying strong." The girl smiled faintly. "You are different from the humans I heard about in stories." Rilara's lips curved into a small smile. "Sometimes stories are not true. People can surprise you." That night, Rilara returned to her quarters exhausted but reflective. She thought about the humans she had come to know, Marek, Thomas, the bridge crew, and the choices they had made. Each day she saw the humans acting with courage, not just through force, but through compassion and understanding. She realized that this approach, not weaponry alone, had allowed humans to survive against overwhelming odds. Yet, even as she understood, a lingering fear remained. The Union was vast, and not all its forces could be avoided. Conflicts were inevitable, and her knowledge of Keth tactics made her a target if discovered by those still loyal to the Union. She knew the Horizon's journey would be filled with challenges that tested her trust in humans, her courage, and her ability to act wisely. A few days later, while the Horizon traveled near the outer rim of the Valaris sector, Rilara was called to the bridge urgently. Sensors had detected a drifting Keth vessel, damaged and abandoned. Marek looked to her for guidance. "Should we investigate?" he asked. Rilara studied the readings. "Yes, there may be survivors. But it could be a trap," Marek nodded. "We proceed carefully." The Horizon approached the vessel. Rilara monitored every movement, ensuring the Horizon remained undetected. When they boarded the Keth ship, they found several wounded aliens and too weak to move. The humans acted quickly, stabilizing their injuries and transporting them safely aboard the Horizon. Rilara observed quietly. She had expected anger, suspicion, or even hostility from these Keth survivors, but instead, they stared at her and the humans with confusion, relief, and something she had not seen before. Trust. One of the Keth, an older officer named Ceylan, finally spoke. Why help us?" he asked. Rilara stepped forward. "Because someone has to. Humans do not abandon those in need. And now you have a choice, and to survive and learn, or to continue hatred and perish." Ceylan lowered his head. I never thought humans could be like this." "You are learning," Rilara said softly. "And perhaps one day your people will too." Over the following weeks, Rilara continued to guide the Horizon through Union-controlled space, rescuing civilians and stranded Keth. Each mission tested her skills, courage, and understanding of humanity. She saw the humans make difficult decisions, risking themselves for others, sparing those who had caused harm, and persevering even when hope seemed lost. Slowly, the rescued Keth began to change. Fear turned into cautious trust. Suspicion faded into cooperation. The Keth who had once fought humans began to see them as more than enemies, as beings capable of mercy, honor, and endurance. Rilara realized that the humans' greatest strength lay not in technology, but in their choices. Their courage was measured not only in battle, but in the consistent choice to value life, protect others, and act with integrity. One evening, Marek joined Rilara on the observation deck once again. The Horizon floated silently above a distant nebula, its colors shifting in the darkness. "You have changed your people," Marek said quietly. Rilara looked at him. "I can only hope. Change comes slowly, but humans are teaching by example. That is something I can carry forward." Marek smiled faintly. "You carry hope as well. That is why you survive, Rilara. Not because you are stronger, but because you choose wisely." Rilara felt a calm resolve settle in her mind. She had expected death, hostility, and hatred when she first encountered humans. Instead, she had found life, courage, and understanding. Humans had shown her that strength was not in destruction, but in protecting others and persevering through compassion. The Horizon sailed onward through the stars. Rilara knew her journey was far from over, but she had gained a new understanding. The universe could be changed not just by force, but by the choices of those willing to act with courage and mercy. For the first time, she truly believed that even the darkest corners of the galaxy could be illuminated by humanity's example. The sky above the ruined city was no longer filled with fire. Smoke still rose from the broken towers, but for the first time in months the air felt lighter. The battle was over. The humans had won, but not through destruction. They had won through mercy. In the center of the city stood Mira, the alien warrior who once fought against humanity. Her silver armor was cracked, and her eyes carried the memory of countless losses. She had expected to die in this place. Instead, she was standing beside the very human who had saved her, a man named Aaron. His uniform was torn, his hands covered in dust, but his eyes were calm. Mira looked at him with quiet confusion. "Your people should have destroyed us," she said. "Why did you stop?" Aaron did not answer at first. He looked around at the injured humans and aliens being helped by medics sharing food and water. "Because ending life is easy," he said softly. "Saving it is harder, but that is what makes us human." Mira lowered her head. His words felt heavier than any weapon. For the first time, she saw something her world had forgotten: compassion. Days passed and the battlefield began to change. Humans and aliens worked together to rebuild what had been broken. Mira joined them, unsure of her place but willing to learn. She had once believed that humans were cruel invaders, but what she saw now broke that belief apart. One morning, she walked through the camp and saw Aaron helping a wounded alien child. The child's eyes widened at the human's gentle touch. Aaron smiled, handing him a piece of bread. Mira stood in silence, realizing how strange and powerful that simple act was. Later, she approached him again. "Your people fight with strength, yet you heal your enemies," she said. "Are you not afraid they will turn against you again?" Aaron shook his head. "Maybe some will, but if we treat them like monsters, they will never change. We show them who we are so they can see there is another way." His answer made her think deeply. In her world, mercy was weakness, but here it was strength. Weeks turned into months. The rebuilding of the city became a symbol of unity. Humans shared their technology, and the alien engineers taught them how to harness energy from the planet's core. Together, they built a new power grid that restored light to the ruined skyline. Every night when the lights came on, people from both races stood together and watched in silence. Mira found herself standing beside Aaron during one such evening. The lights reflected in his eyes, and she saw hope there. She finally spoke. "When I first saw you, I thought you were going to kill me. I was sure humans only knew how to destroy." Aaron looked at her with a small smile. "Sometimes we forget what we are capable of. But every time we choose kindness over revenge, we remind ourselves." Mira felt a strange warmth in her chest. It was not the fire of battle or the pride of victory. It was something softer, something she did not yet have words for. Soon the council of both species met to decide the future. There was fear among some, anger among others. Not everyone wanted peace, but Aaron stood before them and spoke clearly. "We all carry scars," he said, "but the measure of a world is not how deep the scars go. It is how we heal them. We can start again together." There was silence in the hall. Then Mira rose to speak. "He is right. I fought against him and I lost everything. But in my defeat, I found something greater. I found mercy, and that mercy changed me." Her words carried across the hall like a spark in dry air. For the first time, both sides listened without hatred. The decision was made. A new alliance would be formed, one built not on power but on understanding. In the days that followed, Mira and Aaron worked side by side. Together, they planned missions to restore communication satellites, to reconnect distant colonies that had been cut off by war. Every mission was a test of trust, and every success proved that unity was possible. One mission took them far from the city, across the barren plains. The sun was red and harsh, the wind dry. Their transport broke down halfway, and they were forced to walk the rest of the way. During the long journey, they spoke of their worlds, their memories, and their dreams. Mira told Aaron of her people's homeworld, a place of silver oceans and crystal plains, now scarred by endless wars. Aaron listened carefully, and when she finished, he said, "Maybe one day we can help you rebuild it too." She looked at him, uncertain. "You would help us? Even after everything we did?" He smiled faintly. "That is what humans do. We build even when others destroy. We hope even when it hurts." When they finally reached their destination, they repaired the old satellite tower and reconnected it to the network. The signal reached the city, and for the first time in years, communication was restored between worlds. The people cheered when they received the message. Hope was alive again. That night, as they rested near the tower, the stars were bright above them. Mira looked up at the sky and thought of her past. "I used to think death was the only peace," she said. "Now I see that peace is something you have to build." Aaron nodded. Yes, peace is built by hands that once held weapons. When they returned to the city, they were greeted as heroes. But Aaron refused to be called one. "We did what anyone should do," he said. "We gave life a chance." Mira smiled at his humility. In her world, heroes were worshipped for their victories. Here they were honored for their kindness. Years later, the city had grown into a shared capital of both races. Children of human and alien descent played together in the streets. The once broken towers stood tall again, shining under the twin suns. Mira had become a teacher, helping others understand both cultures. Aaron continued his work as a commander, protecting peace instead of fighting wars. One day she visited him at the new headquarters. He was older now, with lines on his face and gray in his hair. But his eyes were still the same, and calm and full of hope. "You changed everything," she told him. He shook his head. "No, we changed it together." As she walked outside, the wind carried the sound of laughter from the children nearby. She closed her eyes and smiled. The war was long over, but its lesson remained, that even in the darkest time, humanity had the power to surprise the universe not with cruelty, but with kindness. From that day on, every year they celebrated the Day of Unity. They called it the Day of Mercy. And whenever anyone asked how it began, the story was told of a warrior who expected death and the human who gave her life instead. The legend spread across the stars. It reached worlds far beyond, reminding all who heard it that mercy was not weakness but strength. And wherever humans went, the universe remembered the day when one act of compassion changed everything.